Johnny P on the UFC 113 post-fight recap. In all, another very successful event for the UFC as approximately 17,500 people attended the event in Montreal. The UFC drew just over $3.2 million at the gate. Unfortunately, not such a successful night for Canadian fighters, as Joe Dirksen was the only Canadian to prevail victorious on Saturday night as he defeated Dan Severn or Tom Lala, whichever the two you prefer. Coming into the night, Joe Dirksen El Dirte was the biggest underdog on the entire card, so I do hope somebody put money on him. Starting off the main card, Alan Belcher, Patrick Cote. What a great way to start off the night. Very exciting fight. Cote looked pretty good considering the fact that he hasn't fought in nearly 2 years, but Belcher proved that he is definitely in the mix for Anderson Silva's 185-pound title. Belcher came out and dealt Cote with some of the dirtiest body kicks that we have seen in the UFC to date. As for the suplex, I did not feel that it was a head spike, but moving forward, I would like to see something done regarding that particular move. I do feel that it is a lot more dangerous than kicking a downed opponent or even an illegal elbow for that matter. Post-fight, Alan Belcher went on to call out Anderson Silva. As I mentioned, I do believe he is in the mix. I would like to see him fight a top contender in perhaps Vitor Belfort before he challenged Anderson Silva. Chael Sonnen is next in line for Anderson Silva's belt, and I would like to see both those fights take place on the same card. It would be very exciting. Coming off that fight, you had Kimbo Slice and Matt Mitrione. Kimbo was fairly ineffective in dealing with Matt Mitrione's striking as well as his ground game. Had a couple good takedowns in the first round. Mitrione threw up a couple triangles as well in the first round. Kimbo looked to be breathing out of his ears. Very tough. Went on to get chopped down by leg kicks and just beaten up on basically. Was eventually cut by the UFC that night. You could make a case for Kimbo Slice being a brawler. Seems like a tough guy. Definitely a fan favorite in Montreal as well as throughout the UFC, in the fan base, I should say. But he is nearly 40 years old, and therefore he doesn't really have a future as a contender in the UFC. After that, you had the fight of the night between Jeremy Stephens and Sam Stout. Sam Stout's third consecutive fight of the night performance unfortunately did not go his way in the judges' cards. Stephens came out, he threw everything he had at Stout and knocked him to the canvas quite a few times. Stout didn't look to have an answer for the left hook, straight right hand that Stephens landed over and over. I think Sam Stout thought he may have had the fight in the bag and kind of cruised for a bit in the third round, which eventually led to Stephens taking him down with approximately 40 seconds left in the third round, which I believe eventually ended up earning him the majority decision. Shortly after that fight, Joe Rogan did comment on the UFC coming to Toronto. I did predict that it would be here by January of 2011. Unfortunately, I do believe that that date will be postponed by a couple months. We need all the support that we can get, whether you live in Toronto, the Greater Toronto Area, Southern Ontario, Western New York, all of Canada, or all over the world. Please log on to ipetitions.com/petition/OntarioMMA, as we would love to see the UFC in Ontario, more specifically Toronto. Shortly after that fight, the number one contender fight for Georges St. Pierre's 170-pound crown saw Paul Daly and Josh Koscheck go at it, very much like I predicted. Koscheck didn't look to want to have any part of the striking with Daly, did not even give him a chance. Being a more superior wrestler, dictated where the fight took place, put Daly on his back, didn't really punish him, wasn't too much of a ground and pound, just kind of laid on him for a bit. Wasn't the most entertaining fight. Koscheck obviously played it safe just to get the victory. As for the illegal knee, Joe Rogan did mention it was an Oscar-winning performance. I do believe that that is fairly accurate, as if Koscheck had cut his hair that night, that knee wouldn't even come close to grazing him. So well done, Josh Koscheck. Post-fight, Daly didn't seem too happy. Came around, basically stepped around Koscheck, landed probably in what Koscheck said was the best punch of the fight with the sucker punch left hand after the bell. Classless move by Daly. He has been cut by the UFC. That has no place in mixed martial arts or or any sport for any professional athlete to conduct themselves that way, and he will never return to the UFC as well. Koscheck went on after that fight to call out George Rush St. Pierre, as well as the Montreal Canadiens. I'm very excited for the show, the upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter, where they will coach head to head and eventually have that title fight probably April, May, or June of 2011. I can't wait to see what happens leading up to that. Personally, I'm getting kind of tired of watching George Rush St. Pierre just have his way with the entire division. Koscheck, we all remember what happened in the first one between Koscheck and George Rush St. Pierre. So hopefully this one will be a lot more exciting. So Josh Koscheck, what you got? Moving forward to the main event, Mauricio Shogun Rua KOing Lyoto the Dragon Machida in the very first round. Didn't see that one coming at all. The Machida era is over, as he had no answer for what Shogun threw at him. Kind of saw it, perhaps going that way, not in terms of the first round KO, earning himself knockout of the night, but Shogun looked to be the aggressor. He attacked more and eventually landed the right hand, which put Machida to the ground, and pretty much right away landed another right hand that looked to just take Machida right out. I mean, watching Lyoto Machida fight, with his style, everybody always said that he needs somebody to press him in order to be defeated. We watched Thiago Silva do that. We watched Sokaju do that, as well as Tito Ortiz, and Machida just came in and picked them all apart. Unfortunately, did not have an answer for Mauricio Shogun Rua on that night. I do believe that the winner of the upcoming Rashad Evans Rampage Jackson will have the first crack at Mauricio Shogun Rua. I would like to see Lyoto Machida get their third fight actually happen shortly after that one. Mauricio Shogun Rua did say he would not object to Anderson Silva moving up or perhaps meeting at a catchweight and having a fight, which would be another very entertaining and exciting fight. This has been Johnny P on the UFC. Look for me the week leading up to Ramp and Rash, as I like to call them, from their time on Ultimate Fighter Season 10. Quick note involving that card, as Forrest Griffin and Antonio Rogero Nogueira has withdrawn. Little Nog, they have withdrawn on that fight, so you will see a Michael Bisping, Dan Miller, I believe, in that place. Till next time, this is Johnny P on the UFC saying keep your chin up and your guard down.